Alright, working on the Camaro today. 5.3 swapped LT1 car. Was an LT1 car. But what I'm going to do today is we're going to flow the nitrous system and set the fuel pressure regulator. Fuel pressure safety switch, which is that thing right there. So your nitrous solenoids have a power and a ground. And you can do this either way. You can run it through the power, you can run it through the... I always run all that through the ground. So here's the ground. The ground goes up and it goes through the wide open throttle switch. So it won't complete that circuit until that's pushed down. And then it comes up and it goes through the fuel pressure safety switch. It won't complete that circuit unless that fuel pressure safety switch reads a certain amount of fuel pressure. And then the ground goes to the solenoid. And then the other ground goes to a power source, a switched power source, so you can turn the nitrous on or off. I've got mine ran through the fog lights, which is kind of cool because there's no buttons in the car indicating that the car has nitrous. It's kind of neat, but if you open the hood, it's pretty obvious. But anyway, the jets for 85 for this kit range from fuel pressure for 40 to 60 psi, I believe. So I set my fuel pressure at 50, which is what it's set at now. But now, when we flow this, I want it, since the jets are 40 to 60, I want it to shut off at 40 psi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that regulator to 40 psi. We'll set the regulator, the actual fuel pressure regulator. We're coming, one side comes out and goes to the motor. The other side of the regulator comes out and goes to the nitrous system. So we're going to set that at 40, and then I'm going to adjust the fuel pressure safety switch. I'm going to take this hose off, the fuel hose off, and I'm just going to screw a rubber hose on there. And I'm going to put the jet on the other end of the hose and put a clamp on it so it just holds the jet. So fuel is only going through the jet. And I'm going to put the biggest jet in there that I'm ever going to use, which on this kit, the highest it goes is a 250. So I'll put a 250 jet in there. And then I'll adjust this screw. Screwing it in clockwise increases the pressure. Unscrewing it decreases the pressure on this little screw back here. So, which I think that screw is just a cap. I'll find out in a minute. Most of them have just a rubber cap that you pull off, and then there's a little small screwdriver in there. I'm not 100% sure on this one. It's a little bit different than the other ones I've had, so I'm going to take that screw out and see if there is something to adjust it inside there. But yeah, and then we're gonna hot wire the fuel pump. I don't know if 98 to 02 cars have this. My harness, mine 99 harness, 99 to 02 harness that I bought off a guy online, it did not have this. So I took this over from my LT1 and brought it over, which, you know, that goes under the dash to hit the fuel pump relay to kick the fuel pump on. So without starting the car, I can run the fuel pump just running a hot wire straight to that little piece right there, straight to the battery, which I just use this terminal thing. These are hot, and this is the ground for most stuff. So we'll run that, set the fuel pressure regulator, and then we'll set the fuel pressure safety switch to where it just shuts off at 40 psi, and then I'm going to turn it back until it just comes on at 40 psi, and then I'm going to set the regulator over there, wherever it's at. Yeah, I'm going to set that back to 50, and that'll be done. Alright, so I got these little alligator clip things I got off Summit. Now, the wires in these suck. I think they only hold like 5-10 amps, so I take them apart and I put bigger wires in them. But anyway, sidetrack. So I ran that to that little piece that kicks on the fuel pump. This comes right off the battery. You see this little wire, it goes right to the battery right there. So we're going to kick the pump on, but before we do that, what I've also done is see that nut on top of the fuel pressure regulator? I went ahead and broke that loose. And then in the top of that's an Allen. You turn that. If you loosen it, I think this is correct. If you loosen it, it lowers the fuel pressure. If you tighten it, it raises the fuel pressure. So I already turned it a little bit. Now I'm gonna kick the pump on and see what the fuel pressure's at. I know, can't hardly see back here, so much crap. All right, the pump's running. There we go. So I turned it a little bit. It was at 50. It's still almost at 50, so I need to turn it a bunch more. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off, turn it a little bit more, and then try it again until we get to 40. All right. Well, now I've turned it too much. It's at about 38. So I'm just gonna tighten it up a little bit more. I'm gonna leave it running while I tighten it up. All right, so there we are. Get a little focus. Don't want to focus. Yeah, there we go. We're right at 40. So we'll go ahead and shut the pump off. I'm going to leave the nut on top of it loose because we got to put it back to 50 in a minute, and it's not going to move anyway, just running like that. All right, so I took the screw out of the middle of there. That's just a protecting screw. And there's an Allen key up in there. If you tighten it, that increases the pressure that it shuts off at. If you loosen it, it lowers the pressure it cuts off at, I think. We'll find out here in a minute. All right, so here's what I come up with. I just ran a rubber hose. I took the fitting off. I just slid it over top there and just used a screw clamp. And then I put the jet in backwards here. And I put a screw clamp on that. That's the biggest jet I'll ever use. And I lied earlier. So the these jets that I have for 85 are actually set to 55 psi. But from experience and messing with Nitrous, I know that the factory jetting comes stupid rich. So I go to 50 psi. And I looked at the jets for 40 psi. There's not a big difference. So 40 psi shut off will be just fine. So now we're gonna turn the nitrous off. We're gonna turn the nitrous off. We're gonna turn the nitrous on. Well, we gotta find a bucket to put this in. We're gonna turn the nitrous on, and then we're gonna arm the fuel pump. Actually, I'm gonna try it before I arm the fuel pump. I'm gonna hit this and make sure it don't come on, as it should not. And then I'm gonna arm the fuel pump. And then I'm gonna hit this and see if it comes on. If it don't, I'm gonna hold this down with something. Not sure what yet, maybe tape. And then I'm gonna turn this clockwise just until the nitrous comes on. Or, yeah, the jets come on. Yeah, the nitrous solenoids come on, the fuel and the nitrous. You'll hear them both click and fuel will start coming out. Right there. And then that's it. And then set the fuel pressure regulator back to 50 and call it done. So this is my low crude setup, and that fuel pressure is going to be coming out there, so I don't know. We'll see how that works. But I just put a little piece of tape to hold that down. So let's turn the fog lights on to arm the nitrous. See if it comes on, and then we'll turn the fuel pressure. We'll turn the fuel pump on and do some adjustments. All right, nitrous is on. Nothing's coming out. That's good. Now let's turn the fuel pressure on. It's gonna make my Allen screw was trying to pop out of there with the pump. So we got stuff coming out. And it's... Alright, so we're going to tighten that up because you can hear it throttling. See it throttling? And that shut it off. So tightening it shuts it off. So now we're going to unscrew it. And we don't want it to throttle. We want it to be nice and smooth. So it's throttling there. We want it nice and smooth at 40. There we go. Nice and smooth. Right at 40. This thing is weird. Now I'm tightening the crap out of it. It's not kicking off. Alright, wait a minute. We got a pretty bad fuel leak there, so we need to fix that. Alright, there we go, guys. I tightened everything up. I just basically did the same thing over again. It was just too hard holding the camera and doing that, but you get the basic idea. So it's set. Actually, I was turning it up and it didn't shut off, but then I turned the fuel pump off, turned it back on, and then it didn't squirt. And then I loosened it up, it started pulsating. On the high pressure systems, it'll pulsate before it shuts off. On the carburetor versions, the lower pressure, as soon as you hit the number, it shuts off. But the fuel injection, where it's such high pressure, and it's releasing pressure, and then it stops, and it gains pressure, and then it releases pressure, it pulsates. So you want to go just far enough to where it stops pulsating and has a good steady stream, and then just stop right there. So this one's set at 40 psi. So now we can unhook all this crap. We can put our jets back in, put that line back on. See, this Proton kit, it goes up to 250. Now normally these Proton kits, they only go up to 150, but if you buy the upgraded, these are 3AN lines, I believe, but if you buy the upgraded 4AN line, it's got a 3AN fitting on this side, it'll spray up to 250. But I sprayed it too. People say it won't go over 150 even with the upgraded lines. That's BS. Because on the LT1, the 200 shot put down 220 rear wheel horsepower. So we might try the 250 shot tomorrow, Monday, when I go for the dyno tune. But yeah, so basically, put the jet back in, put that line back, take all this off, of course. Put the jet back in, put the line back in, turn the fuel pump back on, set it back to 50, and we're done. And that's how you flow the fuel pressure safety switch for nitrous. Y'all like and subscribe and have a great day. And it's all buttoned back up. I tightened that nut up. Keep in mind when you tighten that nut up, sometimes it likes to spin the screw at the top. So it's best to put the Allen in the top, then tighten up the nut so it don't move on you. Once you get all that tight, turn the fuel pump back on or have it running while you're tightening it. Make sure it stays at 50. I already did that. And make absolutely sure that whatever you was using to bypass that, you take off, because that could end very badly if you don't. Start the car up, turn the nitrous on, it'll spray it idle, and it'll surely blow it up. Put the jet in, put that back on. Put it back on up here. I put my little protector screw back in. And that's it, guys.